Okay guys, so when it comes to deciding what trees you should source your leaves from, I just like to stick with trees that are already available in the trade. So if you go to an expo or if you go to a pet store, what leaves are they using? Just because somebody has put the research into that and knows that there's no toxic chemicals or sap or anything associated with these leaves that could be harmful to our reptiles. I know that oak is popular, southern magnolia, almond. There's a lot of popular trees that are used, and so when I'm sourcing my own leaves, I like to just stick with trees that I know. My favorite is southern magnolia. I just like that tree in general, and those were the first leaves that I bought, so I just typically buy those. But if you want to go, if you just have a certain tree in your backyard and you want to do the research into that, then definitely do it, but just make sure you're not going to be introducing anything harmful into your enclosures. So I'm sure you guys are already aware, but just to reiterate, all of these leaves on the ground, all of this is leaf litter. And all of these leaves are actually coming off this tree in front of us. This is a live oak. So generally when you're seeing commercially bought leaf litter, things that you can buy at expos or at pet stores, generally they're going to stick with the same species, and oak is one of the species of leaves that you will find. This is a live oak. This is what one would look like if you're not pruning it, if it's allowed to just grow and it's given the space. This thing is probably a couple hundred years old, and you can see how the leaves kind of, or not the leaves, how the branches kind of go and curve off of the ground like this. It's really expansive, and that's mainly to give it stability. But with an oak tree, it's actually an evergreen, so it's not going to drop its leaves in the fall. It's actually going to keep those leaves until they start dying off. You can see right here we have some browning coming on those leaves, and eventually they'll fall off and hit the ground. And so leaves are important in our bioactive enclosures to give a food source for our cleanup crew. And so when you're collecting leaf matter, one of the things you want to pay attention to is you want to try to get leaves that, let me try to avoid the shade. So you want to try to get leaves that don't look diseased, that aren't really wet. So you want to come out here when it hasn't been a really long rain, and you want to get ones that seem to be in good shape. Like this one, for example, that's a good looking leaf. Doesn't really have any obvious blemishes that you would think would bring any diseases or anything into your enclosures. And let's see if we can find a nasty looking leaf. So this isn't a leaf you would want to introduce to your enclosures. It looks like it has something growing on it, like it might have some type of fungal activity. So this is a leaf you would just want to leave. So you want to try to collect good leaves when you're choosing leaves for your vivariums. So I walked out of the forested area because I wanted to show you this southern magnolia tree. There were trees back there, but this one I felt was a really good representation. Plus I could get a little bit closer to it. And so with the southern magnolia, usually is going to have that fuzzy red underside on the leaves, and there's going to be that leathery green leaf here. You are going to see these sometimes, and also they have white flowers. So this is a southern magnolia leaf, so this is a southern magnolia tree. Just wanted to point it out to you. So the southern magnolia tree that I just showed you is in a parking lot, so it's kind of iffy as to whether or not you should source your leaves from it. So that is a point I want to touch on, is when you're sourcing your leaves, you want to get it in an area that is not very chemically, I guess. You don't want it to be in an area where they're constantly spraying herbicides or insecticides, because obviously all of those chemicals entering your vivarium is going to be an issue for your reptiles more than likely. And so even though we're going to boil them down, you never know what residual chemicals may be left on the leaves. So if you can, try to source from areas that are more natural, where they're not really spraying a lot of chemicals. So the area that we saw the live oak in, that would be a good area because it's within a a protected area where they're kind of letting nature do its thing, and they're not really spraying a lot of chemicals to protect from bugs or weeds or anything like that. So those would be safe. The southern magnolia is questionable because it is in a parking lot, a well manicured parking lot. You don't know if they're constantly out here spraying for things to maintain the property. So do be careful about where you source your leaves. So that pretty much wraps up the outside portion of this. Once you've collected all your leaves, you want to get them all home, and then you want to sterilize them. So I'll show you that process next. All right, guys, so now we are in the kitchen. We've already collected our leaves. We've already discussed some good leaves that I like to collect. So now it's just time to boil them and get to the disinfecting part. So I have all of our leaves in this bag. As a reminder, we collected some southern magnolia leaves, and this leaf I'm actually going to throw away. This leaf looks like it has a lot of fungus on it, so just to be on the safe side, I would toss something like this. I wouldn't continue with the disinfecting process because I don't know, that shit just looks weird to me. So we're getting rid of it. Leaf litter is over here. It's been a full 24 hours, and so everything is completely dry now. They don't necessarily look any different. They are dry to the touch. You can kind of hear them crisping around. We don't want them damp, because if they're damp, they're gonna collect mold and fungus and things like that. So now that they're dry, I'm just gonna collect them all. I'm gonna put them in this random Carrabba's bag for storing until I'm ready to use them. Obviously, you can go ahead and throw these immediately in your bioactive terrariums if you are ready to go ahead and use them, or you can store them for later use. If you're going to store them, do store them in a dry environment. And obviously I wouldn't recommend putting them outside, because then we'd end up right back into the same situation. Alrighty, y'all, that is it for this video. I mean, collecting leaf litter is pretty simple, but I hope you guys were able to learn something. Be sure to check out some of my previous videos and be on the lookout for my next video. I'll see you guys next time.